Hey there, boys and girls of the YouTube world. Today, Duff, Dog, and I are going to see if we can't make this 1988 Chevrolet Suburban look a little bit more attractive. So local shop gave me a call, said, hey, you interested in this 88 Chevy Suburban? Otherwise, I'm going to cut the top off of it and use it for shooting gophers in the pasture. And I said, I think it's way too nice to cut up. What do you got to have? Struck a deal. Story is he got it from a customer. Radiator was leaking. That guy was done dealing with it. So he just gave him a little bit of money off his next tab. Took this thing on trade. They gooped up the radiator because it was a brand new one and the petcock was leaking. So they just smeared some JB weld or something over the petcock, fixed it. Guy before that had it for about 20-ish years, used it for hauling his hunting dog around and going to softball games, stuff like that, just kind of a second beater. And then person before that was another local guy. He got it from the Department of Transportation for the state of North Dakota at an auction, it sounds like. I don't know if he had it very long, but so it's been around local to the county for at least 20 years. So let's take a look at this thing. All right, show them the Suburban, Duff. So a lot of people think square bodies, which is what this is, went from 1973 to 1987. Like I said, this is an 88. I believe they made Suburbans through 91 and crew cabs, maybe even 1-ton regular cabs, but 90-91 last year, probably 91. The 87 through 91s got the TBI engines in them. So this has got, I believe, a 350 in it and a 700 R4 overdrive. So it's got the good stuffs there. So I think the gauges, the speedometer, instead of being a mechanical speedometer, get that itch, is electronic. So it's fuel injected. You just bump the key, you go. It's a Scottsdale, so I don't know if that's the bottom of the trim line, but it's not a Silverado.
Chevys are strong, dependable, and they'll roundhouse kick forward right in the mouth.
It's got roll-up windows, rubber floor mats. The seats are pretty baked. It's seen some sun. Dash pads cooked a bit. They chased a few pheasants with it, didn't they, Duff? It's got the koozie on the shifter, as they all should have. AM radio, does have air conditioning, no tilt. Headliner is just the cardboard backing. There's no material left on it. Bench seat. It did rain here today, so some water runs down the cowl, and that's probably why they rust out on the floor, so we should figure out where that's coming from. Fix that up, because otherwise, yeah, it's not too rusty. I think the only rust is behind the rear wheels here on each side. There's a little bit in the back doors. We'll show you that. No third row seat. Duff likes the seats. I'm guessing these window seals, something leaking back here as well. It's got the, what do they call it? 70-30 or 80-20, whatever you want to call it. Bench seat there. I think they fold down, don't they, Duff? Why don't you fold it down for them? Fuel filler's on the wrong side. It takes $100 to fill it, I can tell you that. Like I said, he used it as his hunting rig, so he had all kinds of hunting decals back here. Garrison, North Dakota Indian Hills Resorts for fishing. Duff's not an ugly dog. Minnesota Blue Platers. Apparently he was a Los Angeles Dodgers. Is that where they're at now anymore? So we're probably gonna take all those out of there. This back door, it takes some doing. There's a little rust down in there. Oh, we gotta fix that strap too. These are, what do they call them? The barn doors. They swing sideways as opposed to the tailgate with the roll-up window. A lot of people like these better because you can get right up to it. You don't have the tailgate in the way. But I kind of like the tailgate because then you can roll the window down. Where this, you can't really have a window down. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Got a spare tire, got the jack. That spare tire don't look like she's holding any air though. Sure enough. We'll need to check that out. I'm guessing there's supposed to be some type of cover over that, but maybe not. So we'll need to fix a spare tire. It does have chrome bumpers, doesn't have painted bumpers. Like I said, the rubber is kind of brittle and baked. Looks like she's had a respray job on her one time. Maybe we can bring this paint back to life. Doesn't have the roof rack. Two-wheel drive. See, there's the rust back there. But other than that, in the door, pretty good. Rockers are nice. I forget how many miles were on it. I don't know that I even looked. 54, so I'm guessing 154. Who knows? Seat's not in terrible shape, so I got some covers we'll stick on it so it don't get any worse. I'm not sure if those seats are the same as a pickup. I believe they are. Maybe not. Doors are nice and solid. No lip rust or nothing. Let's open the hood. See what we got. Duff, you know, open the hood from the back seat. You got this. Man, that's a good dog. Did notice that the park lights are busted out, so you got a couple new ones of those. This valance down here, I think that's the short valance. What is there, a 3-inch and a 5-inch? She's a little chunked out, but it'll be fine. I don't know if that bow tie is supposed to be like that or something's missing there. Got some lichens growing on it from sitting. It's been off the streets for, geez, 10, 18, so 3.5 years. So the guy that I got it from was just kind of using it as a around the yard rig, so it was running and driving. We drove it home. It does got the belt on the air conditioning. It's got the kind of goofy half V-belt, half serpentine belt setup that they use in the later years. I think the 86 that we got, short bed, it's got that same setup on the V6. I really like these throttle bodies. They're not big horsepower, but you just hit the key and they just frickin' work. They don't get great mileage, they don't make great horsepower, and then you got the overdrive behind it. So they're good. I mean, they're no LS, but they frickin' work and they drop right in these things if you got all the right stuff. Side post battery, still got all the smog stuff hooked up even. We'll even leave that hooked up, why not? Like I said, it's got a new radiator with these plastic tanks on it that pretty much everything is anymore, it seems like. The cheap ones. I can't hear an exhaust leak, and when I was firing it up this morning and bringing it in, it looks like it was coming out from underneath. So I guess we'll have to go underneath, see what we got going on there. But you know what we're gonna do first? Oh, these mirrors. I don't like these painted mirrors. See if we can find some different mirrors. Windshield's busted. Inside mirror is missing, so I got a new one of those and a tab. We'll stick that on there. Looks like they enjoyed a few adult bevies while they were driving it. Super straight too. I guess I didn't even look for dents, but there's none that I really noticed. There's a little dinger there. No big whiskey dents. Super solid. I've always kind of wanted a Suburban. I like two-wheel drives. You know what we do with two-wheel drives, so that's probably what's gonna happen to this thing. Stick some tires on it, clean the wheels up, just doctor it up, clean the interior, put some seat covers on it, maybe put a radio in it. I don't know, make a driver, see if we can get the AC working. Who knows where we're gonna go with this? Stay tuned, see what we can do. Oh, there's a little hooey there. What do you think? You like this thing, don't you? You just gonna hang out back there, or are you gonna help? Don't make eye contact. Frickin' none of the lock knobs match. That's a pointy one, that's a chrome round one, that one's missing, that one's a black one. All different, all different. Yeah. All right, let's get this thing up in the air, get the wheels off it, and do the flip kit, huh? Yeah, we like them low, easier to get in and out, load stuff in the back, all that good stuff. All right, so we got our tried and true flea base special rear axle flip kit with shock extensions. That way you can keep your stock shocks, which we've got new ones of. We got KYB standard, because they're black. I like the black shocks. They don't look obnoxious like the yellow ones, or the red ones, or the blue ones. And you keep the stock geometry, stock length shocks, all that. That's why I like those shock extensions. Flip kit, pretty standard. Pull the old rear differential out, pull some bolts on leaf springs, tip the leaf springs down, set the diff on top of them, put them up there. And you gotta remember which hole to put these in. I think you gotta put it in the, I don't remember. I think you gotta put it in the front hole and move it back. We'll find out, I always forget. Go check out my other videos for that. We've done this quite a few times. And then we got some Beltec 8005 shocks for the front. In the front, we're just gonna cut 2 coils off like we always do. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. I like these things because I know how to work on them. Unlike Ford Broncos, which kicked my butt for the last 2 weeks. So this thing should just be a walk in the park. I probably just jinxed myself. Duff, why don't you clean those windows while you're in there? You're a good kid. Okay, let's get after it. Okay, we about got this diff out of here. Took the U-bolts off, disconnected the brake line from the hose, did the breather hose, Took the shocks off, drive shafts disconnected. Interesting fact, these things are a 2-piece drive shaft. They got a hanger bearing in it. Really all that's left is the park brakes, the cables. And if they give me a fight, we're gonna give them the old death wheel. I got hot knives to butter. Because it's an automatic, so we don't need those, and they're probably seized up anyway. And then we gotta figure out how to get one end of the leaf spring loose. I usually do the front ones on these. The hard part is the bolt likes to seize to the rubber, so that can sometimes be difficult. In the back here, we can't really get an impact on it because it's got this spare wheel well. We don't want to get too crazy with the torch because fuel tank's right there. We gotta knock these bump stops off because we're likely gonna hit them anyway, and we might have to notch it. We'll find out. And that's about it. I don't know, I've been at it for, let's check the camera here. Well, just about an hour, but that was doing the intro walk-in stuff, so I don't know, half hour, 45 minutes. This Milwaukee, the BDBH I call it, this thing is way good for stuff like this. You could probably just cut the U-bolts because we're not going to use them, but I like to save them because you might need them for another project someday. Also, this wheel looks a little wet, so let's see what we got going on in there. I don't know if the wheel cylinder's leaking, axle seal. What is it going to be? You can see just how wet the brake shoe is. It is definitely the axle seal. So put that on the list. If we're gonna do one, we gotta take the rear cover off, so we might as well do both axle seals while we're at it, because they both made just as many revolutions. And it'll probably be a good time to put some new shoes in there. The drums are a little bit grooved up, good enough for rear brakes. Front shoe, the primary shoe is pretty worn down. And then if you're gonna do that, and you put new shoes on it, then the wheel cylinders are gonna run at a different spot, and they usually get rusty in the other spots that they don't typically run, so those are gonna leak down the line. So we might as well do wheel cylinders and shoes and axle seals while we're at it. We're already getting deep in this thing. Oh well, it'll be worth it in the long run. Beats working on a Ford Bronco. I needed a break from that. Okay, we got a parts list going. Let's see if we can get some park brake cables off and some leaf spring bolts out. Hey, would you look at that? Park brakes unhooked. I didn't record it because it's much like watching a monkey do inappropriate things with a football. There's never a good way for me to do it, but we got her. Also, this thing's super solid under here, and I think I found the exhaust leak. Looks like we're gonna have to hit up boom tube. Let's get this Diffie out of here and cut some bump stops. Well, we got the Joe Diffie slid out here. Well, we got it out. I think we'll do those axle seals and stuff kind of up in the air, make it a little bit easier, maybe. Probably put a brake hose on it too while we're at it. That one's 34-ish years old. Also, I was able to get that rear bolt off on this side for the leaf spring, and we kind of snuck her down. So since we got to take pretty much everything off on this side for the axle seal, well, both sides, since we're going to do them all, I was thinking we could just take the backing plate off, and maybe we can sneak the axle over the leaf spring on that side without dropping it down. Is that a terrible idea or what? And then this side, we can leave the backing plate on and we'll lift that leaf spring up because there's just no room to get at them bolts. And with the axle out, we're literally 4 bolts away from taking that backing plate off, and it would be super easy. That's the other thing, is if you really in a pinch and couldn't get any of those bolts out, which is highly likely, you could pull the axles and take those 4 bolts on the backing plate out. These guys right here, you could take those 4 off, and that whole backing plate will come off, but you gotta have the axle out. Obviously, you gotta have the brake line off, and the park brake cable will stay with it. What is this, a 10 bolt or 12 bolt? 2, 4, 6, 8. She's a 10. I kind of figured as much being a government rig. It does have, when I was looking up brakes, there's a 2-inch brake and a 2 3/4. It's got the big 2 3/4 brakes. Of course, the wheel cylinders are different, and the shoes, obviously. Also, in '87, they quit calling them C10s. They call them G10s, I think. And that's what, this thing is a half-ton 2-wheel drive Suburban. So this is an R10, which is what they called them in '87. They only came with 6.5 diesels and 5.7 TBI gasolines. You couldn't get a 305 or a big block or a 4.3 V6 in 1987 in the two-wheel drive Suburban. Your worthless knowledge for the day. The more you know. I'm gonna go whack off some bump stops under there.
Ain't you them kids that have been whacking off in my tool shed?
We're gonna use the gas axe, cut the heads of the rivets off, and then we're gonna get the air whammer and just pound them through. Good to go. I don't like putting C-notches in if you don't have to. I don't think Chin's pickup's got one. And my white pickup, that doesn't have one either. I don't think, I can't remember. The K5 Blazer, that doesn't have one. So I do have one on the shelf. We need to put it in. We'll see how it looks once we get it in there. Looks like it's got a pretty heavy stack of leaf springs. What is that, a 7-leaf pack? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's close, only one off. All right, let's get her done. You are so much help. Really appreciate it, pal. Thumbs up. Got our bump stops whacked off, and we got a mess. This thing has seen a lot of mud and dirt and gravel. It needs a good cleaning underneath. It's probably not been washed in 25 years. So we'll clean up these tops of the springs where we're gonna set her rear end once we get her in. Clean up all this stuff on the floor for now, so that we don't have to roll in all that. And let's pull the diffie apart. Take the drums off, and I think we'll just take the brake line off, take the diff cover off. We're not even gonna drain the fluid on it. Let's see how bad it looks. Pull the carrier pin out, and then we'll pull the C-clips out and slide the axle out. And then we'll just take the whole backing plate off, and we'll just do the brakes with the backing plate sitting on a table. How about that? Like, seems pretty smart, right? We'll see. That way at least we can get it all set up and in there. Since I don't have brake parts on hand, maybe we can round some up tomorrow, get this thing back together. Also, I probably stated in my other videos, I like to do the rear first, because you do this flip kit, you don't really have any adjustment. So you get your rear level set right, and then you go up to the front, and that dictates how many coils you cut off up there. Seems like 2 has been money every single time. That's what we did on Chins, and that's what we did on K5 Blazer. I don't know if there's another one, but for sure on those two, I think on the 86 we bought DJM suspension stuff. So let's see how that goes. 9 o'clock whistle. All right, let's get after it. We got stuff to do yet tonight. Birds are a chirping. Usually on these gears, it should be marked like 41 and 10. So that means there's 41 teeth on the ring gear and 10 teeth on the pinion. 41 divided by 10, 4 tens. Since this is an overdrive, I'm guessing they're probably 342s or 373s, but we could go through and count them, but I really don't care that much. So we're gonna take this bolt out, and then that'll allow us to take this cross pin out, and then we can push the axle in, and we can take the C-clips out and slide the axle out. Bada bing, bada boom. Originally, these things had gaskets, and this thing had, I believe, Right Stuff silicone on it, which is what I use. The reason I can tell that is because it's black, and it came off real hard. When I pulled this pin out, I saw some markings on there. And then I saw the rear cover. She's pretty hammered out. I'm guessing this pin, or its predecessor, came loose at one time and went beat the snot out of the cover. It even looks like it's been welded up. Put some holes in it. So this thing's got some stories to tell. We got the pin out. Now I'll push in on this axle shaft. You can watch the axle shaft slide in, and then the C-clip drops down inside. Son of a biscuit. But now it'll slide out. There you go, just like that. So you always have your magnet ready, and you gotta fish that C-clip out of there. Usually there's no oil when you're doing it, so that makes it easier. We'll find it. It's in there somewhere. Anyway, now we're ready to take that backing plate off. We're probably gonna have to drain that thing anyway, because I don't know how we're gonna... Good time to drain it, even though the oil looks pretty good. Let her drain overnight. So since we don't have axle seals, we can't put that axle back together. I mean, we could, but we got other stuff to do. I got some 15x8 steelies that I painted white. And then I got some 15x7s blasted and I painted white. And I got some 275, 60, 15 Cooper Cobras. And I think some 245s or 255 60s for the front. So let's get them mounted up. Todd hooked us up with some brake shoes and some wheel cylinders and some axle seals. CarQuest did have a right front brake hose. I couldn't find a left in Brookings or Watertown or Britain. So we might not get new brake hoses. We'll see. Napa Todd's gonna try to get us some tomorrow. Let's slide this thing in there. Maybe we'll whack an axle seal in first. Maybe not. It'll be just as easy when it's over there. But this thing's pretty much ready to go in. We're gonna see if we can't just sneak that stub into the axle over the leaf spring over where Duff's at. He's gonna guide her in with his nose, or he's just gonna hang out on the seat in the back. Got our mess cleaned up, other than the brake fluid that dripped out last night. Let's see if we can't get this diffie slid in there. Here we go. Really wish I had some help with this. This is kind of awkward stuff. Real fun by yourself. You folks know how it is. Got the rear end set in there. I did have to do a little grinding on these perches. They didn't want to wrap around the axle tube just right, seat in there. So first time I ever had to do that. And then I did see on another video, somebody said these welds aren't meant for being in tension. They're meant to be in compression. I don't know. You know, the leaf springs sit on top of it as opposed to the top side. So these welds aren't that good. Some people have tore them loose. Well, we don't have a whole lot of power or two-wheel peel, so I'm not concerned about peeling those loose. If you were to do this right, I would say you cut the old perches off and you weld new spring pads on there, and that's how you lower this thing. Then you get rid of all that play and slop and tolerance stack up of everything in there, and you get your pinion angle set right. You might have to drill the whole offset because the rear end isn't going to sit perfectly centered because it's on the top of the leaf springs now. But that's the biggest obstacle. But if you got something you want to do it right and you're going to keep for a long time, I would say weld some new spring perches. Spring perches? You know what I'm talking about, that piece on the rear end. Anyway, leaf spring mount. The other thing is, I did, after that rear end sat there and dripped for a long time, you could see scratched in the ring gear. It says 373. I'm guessing those gears got replaced when that differential exploded. So 373s, just like I thought. I'm gonna put this bolt in back here so this thing can't fall on my melon. And then I'm gonna start putting that rear end back together. And we'll put the wheels on it and put some weight on it to make sure that they're centered in the wheel well. Those two holes, I have it set in the offset hole and I have the rear end slid ahead because it seems like we're always having problems with drive shafts. It's because they're slid ahead. So that's what we're doing. Right, meow. I think that's where it's got to be. Looks pretty close to where I kind of eyeballed where the center line was and drilled some holes for the bump stops. And it looks like the rear end's sitting pretty dang close. Centered up with that right now. Could maybe come back a little bit. Like I said, that was just eyeballing it, measuring the wheel opening, being at like 38 inches, and then we measured halfway in the middle, which is 19 inches, but that's clearly just eyeball. Let's get that bolt and that leaf spring so this thing can't fall in my melon. That sometimes takes some doing because it's fighting you in that bushing up there. Always fighting the rubber. We're going to put our U-bolts and our clamp in place, and then we'll put the wheel on, put the jack on the differential, jack it up just to make sure the wheels are centered, then we'll set her back down and adjust if we need to. start putting stuff back together, hopefully. On to our next debacle. Sliding this aftermarket 8-inch wheel on. I forget what brand it is. US wheels? No, I'd have to look. But you can see how it's not mating up against the drum / axle surface. So I went on the backside, see if it was hitting on the leaf spring or hitting on the drum, on the perimeter out here. Well, it's none of the above, so then I saw these little dimples in here. Well, you can see how these dimples stick out. I marked where they kind of stick out. You can see how it's stamped. And so it's hitting right there is where it's hitting, and that must be the way the wheel's designed, so we should get some longer wheel studs to do her up right. And you see where that line is about 60% of the way through the wheel stud, not right in the middle. And you can see how it's stamped on these, and it's just right at the last 10% of the hole. And those are the wheels that came off of this thing. And these are the ones that I had blasted, and same deal, that's right at the edge. So I don't know what we gotta do here. I just don't like it riding way out there. Why does everything gotta be so dang difficult? Why can't they just make it the way it was from the OEM? So I don't know. We gotta make a spacer, the thickness of that only goes out yay far, and then put longer wheel studs. What a pain. Why would I do that? So if you know what's going on here, comment down below. I think we're safe running these, but you know, there's not gonna be a lot of excess threads. Well, it's not even gonna be threaded all the way through the lug nut. So I think to do it right, you gotta make a spacer so it's clamping on all of it. Otherwise, you're just gonna bend that rim over time and it's gonna relax and your lug nuts are gonna come loose, I think. What a freaking pain. Tell you what. And you'd have to put longer wheel studs in because you're not getting full engagement. So I don't know what these things are supposed to fit. They're 5-on-5. The only thing that really means is 71 to 76 GM cars, two-wheel drive pickups from 71 on up, and then some earlier Cadillacs and Buicks and Pontiacs and such. Maybe it's supposed to fit one of those. Oh, it's killing me. So I guess we're gonna go back to the old wheels. Kind of digging how these fat tires with nice white rims look too. This is why I have a million wheels and tires around, because they never seem to fit. Do they, Duff? Quit your complaining, he says. Get this thing going so I can go for a ride. All right, we're on it. Well, the good news is I think we got it centered. It could maybe come back, but I think she's pretty good. I think she's right where she needs to be. You wanna come out here and check it out? Are you good? All right. Dang it. I like the way it looks. Well, we're gonna have to run the old wheels, I guess, until we can get some longer wheel studs and spacers and everything else. Really, it's not a spacer, it's just a shim, per se. Freaking A. And once you paint these wheels and mount them, you own them. So there's a few $100. Son of a biscuit. Okay. Also, there's not a whole lot of room for travel, so we might be having to figure out a notch. Exactly what we wanted to do. And this notch is going to be different than a pickup because it's got this body mount there. And the notch isn't going to be in the center of the hump. It's kind of towards the back of the hump. So I don't think the notch that I have is going to work for this thing either. Okay, GM. I'd give you all the credit. You hosed me over on this one, on the notch not being the same as pickups, but wheels are somebody aftermarket's issue. And then this Chinesium flip kit that we got here has really nice U-bolts. I mean, they're pretty heavy duty. They look good. But they got these flange nuts and they're touching on this bend on each side. So they could have had this plate a little bit wider, but that's what you get when you get overseas parts, I guess. That's what happens when you buy the cheapest ones on Fleabay. So I guess now we got to figure out what we're gonna do for a notch. Put this rear end back together, have a sandwich. I don't know what we're gonna do. So much disappointment. Nothing's ever easy. If it was easy, everybody'd be doing it. So here's where we sit. I got about an inch and a half of clearance before the axle tube hits the frame, so that's not gonna work. See how they got that body mount there, and then how the frame swoops down? So this pickup C-notch is not gonna work without some modification, for sure. I got some 4-inch, 1/8-inch wall tubing. We could cut that in half and make a notch. And then we gotta watch out because the taillight harness runs on this side. And the thing you don't have to worry about on pickups because the fuel tank's up there, but they're back here on a Suburban. So we got fuel lines running on the other side, plus a brake line. So we'll have to move all those out of the way. You guys asked for it. We're gonna get to do some fabric cobbling here. Mortske Fab Shop. Good stuff. There looks like there's a Tin Works out of Iowa that makes a pretty nice bolt-in C-notch kit, 195 bucks. But I don't know that we'd get it there in time to get this video done. Plus we still got to do some cutting and drilling, and he's got the mount built right into it. It's pretty neat. Check it out. And the other thing is, the drive shaft is about 2 inches too short. I'll show you here. There's a slip yoke there. Got slid all the way ahead. And this drive shaft right here is about 2 inches too long. So what I did is I measured from this mating surface to the center of that with it slid all the way ahead and with it slid all the way back, and split the difference between the two because it's got about 1 3/4 of travel. So I put it in the middle, and then I measured from here to right there, and I got to get 33 7/8 right there. And right now it's about 35 7/8. We got to get that shortened up or find a different one. And I'm sure somebody's going to say, well, just slide it ahead on the carrier bearing there, because those holes are slotted usually. Also, that carrier bearing doesn't look that great, but I've seen worse. But we can't do that because the yoke is slid into the back of that 700 R4 already. And that is an oily 700. It does shift a little slow going in gear, so we should probably top that off. I think it's mostly the pan leaking, but it's usually never just the pan. So we got to address that too. Yay! Yay! So I'm gonna pull that drive shaft out. I think all we gotta do is loosen that nut on the end there, and we should be able to get that out of there. Should be easy. Should be, keyword. So here's what I'm dealing with back here. Looks like 1, 2, 3 fuel lines and a brake line. And then also, we're gonna have to reroute the vent hose because we don't have a ton of clearance between the floor and the top of the diffie. And we'll probably have to reroute the brake hose and those brake lines. So hopefully we can just bend those lines and move that down a hole in the diff cover. And then we'll just reorient that clamp for the breather tube, move that, so that won't be too bad. But these things are way harder than pickups for lowering. Not a lot of room there. We'll get her though. We will get her. And there's the wires for the taillights and the fuel pump and the fuel setting unit. That won't be so hard. We'll just pull those out of the way. Hopefully only burn a couple of them. It's gonna be tough for boom tube to sneak exhaust through there too. That'll be interesting. He'll get her figured out. There, took all the clamps loose on the fuel and brake lines. Got those all over the tarp strap that I picked up on the highway that's about ready to let loose. We got our wires for our fuel pump and taillight tied out of the way. So now we could do some marking and cutting. Yay, fun stuff. Remember, measure once, cut twice. Measure twice, cut once. Yeah, my bad. How we've always shortened drive shafts is we'll cut them on this end, and then we put this end in a big lathe, and that's how we get them straight. We have a chop saw that's got a notch in it, so you can just put it in there and you cut it on the weld, knock it apart, and you cut however much out that you need. Clean that up a little bit, pound her together. Make sure that you got your universal joints in phase, so you set it on the floor and make sure that lines up with that end. We never balance them. They always work just fine. If you want to get your drive shaft balanced, go for it, but we've made hundreds of them. Never had to balance them, but I mean, nothing wrong with it. We just don't have the capability of doing it. It never seems to bother. Getting them in phase is the big thing, though. Well, this thing's kind of beat up back here. I wonder if that was from when things went south. That rear end. Yeah, like I said, cut it with a chop saw right through that weld. You'll see how there's I don't know, this casting sticks in there a ways, so you clean it up a bit, cut it off to where you need it to be, clean up the tube a little bit, tap them down together on the floor so that they're pretty much in phase, and we'll put it in the lathe, spin it around, just kind of get it as true as we can. We don't ever check run out, just get her pretty close and they're fine, especially on a short one like this. That's pretty much all there is to it. You just gotta have a big enough lathe to chuck it up, which I don't have here, but the neighbor's got one. So this area right here is tapered, so we're gonna go ahead and grind out the tube a little bit after this, and then you just tap this tapered in right into your tube, and it should pretty much just self-center itself. There you have it. That's how Mortske makes drive shafts. Chop saw, hammer, and a great big lathe. I didn't show the part where we were trying to get this installed. It's kind of a two-person job. One person holds it. You're trying to keep everything in line. That was really a struggle. We had to whack it pretty good, and we ended up kind of screwing up the U-joint. So we'll put a new U-joint in there once this thing cools off. Also, I'm not real great with this three-phase welder, so kind of buggered it up in a couple spots. So we'll touch that with the grinder. How does this U-joint feel? She's pretty good. Pretty good. Yeah, it took, about an hour, but I don't do it all the time, so it'd go faster if I did it more often. Also, don't hit your finger with a great big jackhammer because it doubles in diameter. That hurts. But that's where we're cutting her off tonight. Oh man, it seems like we just keep going backwards on this thing too. Hopefully tomorrow we can get a drive shaft in and start cutting the frame out for some C-notcheroo skis. Duff's tired, so am I. Seems like every day. These jobs that are supposed to take an hour or two end up taking 6. And then you find 3 more things wrong that make you have to do 16.25 times 4 more hours of work. All right, I need some sleep. See you tomorrow. Alrighty then.
Alrighty then.
It's been a day, I tell you what. Just got back from the old 9 to 5. I can tell you what I think of those things. I'm sure you all think the same. If you love your job, comment down below what you do and why you enjoy it and how I get that job title. Anyway, there should be some funny ones. Can't wait. Getting the shaft there, and we're gonna stick this shaft in here. I stuck a new Precision Moog 534 greasable rear U-joint in there. You guys have seen me do that a gazillion times, so I didn't video that. Even cleaned up my welds a little bit, you know, so it's really in balance. Speaking of imbalance, need some of them New Balances like that Puddin's got.
Mess with me again, see if you don't get a New Balance.
These things, these rock roosters, they make my feet sweat. My Twisted X don't do that. Anyway, we're gonna slide this thing in and make sure that it fits. And the rear end's all the way up now. Well, not all the way up. It's at ride height. We're gonna put that in there and make sure everything fits before we have to do anything different. Because I'd hate to, after this we're gonna start cutting C-notches, and I'd sure hate to start cutting C-notches in and find out that something's messed up with the drive shaft and we need to change where the rear end's at. I don't foresee any issues, but if I could foresee these issues, I should probably go into politics or into the stock market investing and whatnot. So I'm gonna stick this shaft in and we're gonna grease everything and it's gonna be happy. Everything's gonna be happy. Just wanna be happy. Right, Duff? You look pretty happy in that back seat. You've been camping out there for a couple days now. It's a good seat. Shaft time. I know it would have been a good time to put both knuckles in, but we screwed up that back one. Otherwise, it was fine before. I was just gonna leave it. And it was greasable, and it had the clips in it, so I can tell it's been replaced. And the back ones always go out first. So, I mean, if we were gonna do it right, we would have put a new hanger bearing in too while we're at it. But it's one of them days. Let's stick a shaft in. We're gonna grease it though, so we got that going for us. You know what smart people do when they take these off? They mark where it come off, because you got to have these knuckles in phase with those knuckles out there. But like everything else around here, we're just gonna wing it. We could screw up a wet dream, right, Duff? Oh, I feel like it's gotta go. One more spline. Oh my gosh, it does have a master spline. Yay, they made it so we can't screw it up. No, never mind, it's not really a master spline because it just covers up 2 splines. That's where the grease zerk goes. Ugh, thought we were so smart there. Turns out we're not. That looks like it's it. Well, looks like it's gonna fit. So that's good. Now let's tighten everything up and cycle it through its paces. Speaking of paces, AMC Pacer. We need to find one of them. Make ourselves a Murphmobile.
Ah, the Murphmobile.
Pacer or Gremlin? I'm kind of a Gremlin fan myself, mostly because it's fun to say and they don't look as awkward as a Pacer. Nothing wrong with a Pacer. Good old 258 in it. Did you know they made a Levi's edition that had Levi's interior in the Pacers and in the Gremlins? Now you do. They also made a Gremlin X and a Pacer X. I actually had a Pacer X. Don't ask me what was different about it, just had different trim. Near as I could tell. Sadly, let that one go. Well, I was gonna spray some Zeppum on those. We're going back to the Zeppum. Give Croyle a crack. I don't know. It's fine. Nothing wrong with Croyle. See if we can't bust these off with the old Impactola. That would really be the icing on the cake for my day. Oh, check them with our elbow-powered torque wrench. Click. Click. Cool. Oh yeah. Don't forget to grease it. Except if we can't get the grease gun in there. Always wear your safety glasses. The Zerk splooged on me. That's what you get for trying to service it. Okay, I'm gonna let the jack down and we're gonna make sure nothing does anything too crazy. We should probably unhook. That was dumb to tie the brake hoses or brake lines to the pinion, because yeah, when we let this down, it's gonna pull them down. Smooth moves, X-Lax. Glad we caught that. What do we tie the other side to? Something that's gonna move? Yeah. Wow. Thought we were real smart. Okay, so I just measured the frame thickness to determine how long we gotta cut our tubing. I think I measured both sides. This side's 3 1/4, that side's 3 3/8. So we're gonna give ourselves some extra material. We're gonna do them both at 3 3/8. Actually, we're gonna cut one chunk of 3 3/8 tube, and we're gonna cut it in half. How's that sound? Brilliant! Brilliant! That way we got plenty of extra material. Also, while we had it jacked up, I marked the center line, so we know where to cut our 4-inch circle. What is 4-inch radius? No, diameter, or 2-inch radius. Remember those days? Radiuses, diameters, pi r squared, such. Good times. Our chunk of tube here is not cut off very square, so we're gonna try to square it up a little bit better in the bandsaw. And then we'll mark it out, cut it again. You got that same problem where everything's always broken? Yeah, me too. Looks like last time I put the saw away, I broke the blade. So I guess that's the first thing we're gonna do is put in a blade in the old LS 1600. Fun times. Never used this handy dandy tool before, but I guess this is how you cut a tube in half, allegedly. What do I know? So we're gonna slide that over it, and then we'll mark it, And we just got to cut it along those two lines. Like so. Easy peasy lemon squeezy, right? Then we got to transfer it to this side. So we're going to get a piece of angle iron. Bed frame. This is the stuff dreams are made of. And this can only sit square with the tube. The way you clamp it on there. So that's going to give us our straight mark. Go to the other side, line it up with this one. Now, you just got to cut along those two marks. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. We got a tube marked for splitting. I can't figure a good way to clamp it in the horizontal bandsaw and the vertical bandsaw. It's a little sketchy, so we're going to use the next best saw, the single speed Black & Decker Pecker Wrecker Jig'em saw. Should be fun. Here we go. Look at that. I mean, we're within a 1/16 there. Pretty good for a hack mechanic with a jigsaw nonetheless. Just finally getting feeling back in my fingertips. Now, let's go do some marking and cutting on that frame. Reason I use the jigsaw is because it takes less of a width of a cut, you know, as opposed to the chop saw or a death wheel. And there's less sparks. And maybe it's a little bit more controllable. I don't know. And plus we're using all the saws. And the bandsaw cuts a lot straighter than the chop saw. This thing had been cut off with a chop saw one other time. Chop saws like to walk on you. We're all about precision here. You can see I marked my actual center line, and then I measured 2 inches either side, put a mark, and then lined this guy up with it. And I marked it on the top side. A plasma would probably work best for this. A hole saw, actually, since we're talking about saws. I thought about actually welding a tab down here, so you got, you know, you'd have to find where your center is, then you could drill a hole there and then use a hole saw and get most of this and then nip the bottom side with the death wheel. We're just gonna do it with the torch and clean her up, I think. Yeah. I mean, a hole saw would be good if you don't have a torch. Plasma would be great, but Dad, you borrowed that thing like 3 years ago. You can bring it back anytime now. I've had a couple of uses for it. Anyway, torch it is. We'll see how good I can cut. I'm gonna trim this breather hose off and plug it in. It's plenty long now. I kind of gummed up the end of it before. I also put the rear diff cover back on so that we don't get that full of stuff. And then I stuffed a rag in each axle tube so that we don't get a bunch of debris in there. Yeah, I know, Duff. I'm on top of it. I told him. Got a couple of magnets in place holding this chunk of tin. That'll keep us from blowing through and getting into those fuel lines. Double wrapping it. Son of a biscuit, that's a pretty dang good free-handed circle, if I do say so myself. Now, how are we gonna cut through here? We'll see how far we can get till we nick our little double wrap back there, and then we'll have to take that off and cut the rest of the way through without blowing up any lines. Let's tip our protectile shield back. There we go. Now we're cooking with gas. Let's do this side first. Hopefully no match in the gas tank. Boom, boom.
Match in the gas tank. Boom, boom.
That's a nice semicircle right there. I should have a sandwich to celebrate. Now we'll clean her up with the old flappy wheel here. If this don't do a good enough job, we'll have to get a smaller one. How does it fit? Can we drop her in from the top side? Oh yeah. That's gonna be real good. I'll take a little bit off down here. That way, we can kind of V-butt it. V-butt it? I don't know what you call that. It's pretty good right there. Pretty good. Open it up just a skosh more, and after we open it up some more, that'll give us some more room. Now, my gosh. It's like we knew what we were doing. Get the welder out. tack it in, burn it real good. Clean up this backside a little bit. Can we get in there? Can we? Huh? Did our day just get better, Duff? Not only does that fit great, what's that noise? Oh yeah. No mask. Are those summer sandals on? Yeah. Man, that guy must go through groceries like nobody believes. Yeah, he's checking out the 92. He knows that. Frick, he about went off the road there. Just gawking at the old 92. That's a nice pickup, by the way. Okay, I think I'm gonna get the welder out. And we're gonna get that set in place and burn it in. And we're gonna have a sandwich and celebrate. And then we're gonna go do the other side. Here we go. We got old Blue, the Miller 200 out. Tech tip of the day. If you got an old vehicle like this with a chrome bumper, put your ground on it. 90% of the time it works every time.
60% of the time it works every time.
That doesn't make sense.
Let's do some burning. This is where I wish my partner had some films to hold this in place for me. You know what I'm saying, pal? The gun ready. Ah, that's hot. Where are you going? Nowhere.
He ain't going nowhere. He's going nowhere.
Okay, let's burn her in real good. So we got that tubing burned in there real good, got it from both sides. I'm gonna clean the welds up so she's nice and pretty because my welds, let's be honest, I don't do a ton of welding. And overhead and vertical and laying upside down, trying to get your head in there, just, it ain't working for me today. So it's plenty good structurally, but visually it needs a little work. So we're gonna clean it up a bit. I'm probably a better grinder than I am a welder, but I'm not afraid to admit it. Learning every day. Admit your mistakes. Good enough for the girls we go with. Hopefully the next side we can do a little bit of better job welding, but like I said, burned at both sides. This thing's gonna be plenty strong. If you really wanna get crazy, we could take our cardboard aided drafting, put her up against the backside of the frame rail, tap it with a hammer, use that for an outline, trim her out, transfer that to metal, put it up there, burn it in real good. But that thing's gonna be plenty strong. I know somebody's gonna say, oh, you should have braced the back end of this thing with a set of jack stands so it doesn't come down, but it's not gonna come down. It's plenty rigid, plus the other side's not cut yet. Probably wouldn't have been good to cut either sides. And we only cut not even halfway. Like this is a 4.5 inch tall frame rail, right? Did I guess right? Yep, 4.5 inches. And we only cut 2 inches up, so we didn't even cut half of it. Plenty strong. We didn't tweak it. It's good to go. So let's go over and work out the other side, do the same thing over there. And we can start putting our fuel lines back up and brake lines and trailer wires, all of that good stuff. Forgot to mention on the other side, I had the jack supporting the back of the frame, so when you cut it out, it can't drop down. Just precaution, you know? We're all about the precautions around here, aren't we, Duff? Okay, let's mark this side out. Whammy out another one. Do you love fabrication? Yeah, me too. Dang, look at that. Once you get the welder dialed in, it almost looks like you know what you're doing. All right, I'm gonna go on the back side and burn it in even better. So that'll wrap up our notch. Now we're gonna put the axle seal back in and put our backing plate back on and our new brakes in. Slide our axles in. Put the rear end back together. We'll put our brake lines and our brake hose, hook that up. We might have to reconfigure the brake line so that it doesn't mash into the floor if we're to hit a big whammo in the road. And put our wires back over here. We'll let everything cool off a little bit. But yeah, I'm gonna start putting this rear end back together. Why didn't you guys tell me to put the shock extensions on when I had the rear end out on a jack stand? Because you like seeing me be miserable and crawl underneath. One day I'll have a hoist, and that would make all this so much easier. Someday, we can only dream. Okay, let's put a new axle seal in. We got the claw here. We're just gonna hooky in there, and it's gonna just not fall right out. There. We're gonna give the new one the old tap, tap, taparoo.
Just tap it in. Just tap it in. Give it a little tappy. Tap, tap, taparoo.
Stick our back and play. Oh my gosh, I didn't have that spring on all the way. Well, I guess we'll address that once we get it on there. I've never done brakes like that on a bench. That was pretty neat.
That's pretty neat.
They're all whammied back together. And a couple of tech tips that came from the comments on last week's Bronco video. Short shoe, long shoe. It's like your family photos or your class photos. Short ones in the front. That's easy to remember. Short ones in the front. And for getting these park brakes off, I don't know why I never thought of this. Just slide. A lot of people said 13 millimeter or a 1/2 inch wrench. Just slide that over it, push it on it. Bada bing, bada boom. Or you can try to retract it all the way and then push a socket over it. Or some people said a hose clamp. You slide that over it, tighten it up, but then the hose clamp's in the way. So I kind of like that. 1/2 inch wrench. I'll have to try it next time we put park brake cables on, which will probably be never. Slide the axle in, and we'll go to the other side, get that all put together, and then we'll finish putting things together inside the diff and moving all that stuff in there that's gonna whack the floor. All right, let's go to the other side. We got our diffie back together. We're gonna top her off with some 80/90. I took and moved this brake line holder from that bolt down to this one, and then flipped the hose from mounting on the top and it shooting forward to shooting back and mounting on the bottom side. Bent these lines around. They're not amazing, but at least it's not sitting up top and gonna whammo into the floor every time we hit a bump. So it should work fine. I rotated this clamp on the breather hose so that shouldn't get whammoed as well when we haul all the big stuff in the back, right, Duff? So everything's pretty much done back here other than filling her up. Gonna hook up the park brake cables. We gotta do our shock extensions because we were silly and never did those when we were up top. Then we gotta adjust our brakes and put our drums back on, and then we can probably stick some wheels back on, set her on the ground, and then start messing with the front. Here from the front side, huh, Duff? We got our 5-gallon jug of 80/90 here. So I'm gonna go underneath, pull the plug out, stick it in there, and you're gonna pump the handle till I say whoa. Come on, look me in the eyes. How come you never help me out? Fine, I'll do it all myself. You just lay inside and take a nap and look pretty. Okay. Before you top off your diff, make sure you scrape it with your super scraper. Hit us up if you need one of them. Clean it with some brake cleaner, and then use Right Stuff silicone. That's the best stuff. That's what I like, other than it makes them really hard to come off the next time. Let's do some park brake cables. We're gonna take our old drum here, and we're gonna spray her down with some brake cleaner and try to get some of that axle grease out so we don't embed that into our brand new brake shoes. You don't want that. They don't do the stopping things then, I don't think, as well. There's a little bit of groovage going on here. She's groovy.
Groovy, baby.
But I think it'll be plenty good. Doesn't have a huge lip on the edge. It's just from dirt ending up in there over the years. Now we got this adjuster wheel down here, which you got to push down. If you're looking from the rear, it's got to go counterclockwise. You can tell that because there's this lever here that's hooked up to the adjusting system. It hooks up to this rod here into that spring. And anyway, self-adjuster. And it's on the outside here and on the top side of the wheel, so it pushes that wheel down to adjust it out. So that's what we're gonna do, is push it down and adjust it out just until our drum fits a little bit loose. Well, so I mean, there's a little bit of resistance going on. That adjuster wheel spins nice. There we go, just a little resistance. Give her a couple more. And that should adjust out as you drive it, in theory, if it does its thing. Why is that not turning? Oh, because it's probably in park. No. There you go, she's turning. We just got to go over and do the other side. Now we just gotta bleed the brakes back here, and the brakes are done. Let's go put some shock extenderooskies in. Shock extensions are in. As usual, the hardware sucks that comes with these. Just the overall quality isn't that great, but you can't beat them for whatever I paid for them. I don't know, like 40 bucks. So I put some new 1/2-inch hardware. They have one bolt that goes all the way through. I used single bolt on each side because otherwise you're just pinching that shut if you don't have a sleeve in the middle of it. You don't want that. And the bolt in the back side, I put a 1/2-inch bolt in there as well, just because American hardware. I use the stock bolt on the bottom, easy peasy. Got our KYBs in there because they're black, and I like not loud and obnoxious shocks. No big loud Monroes with blue boots here, or red Ranchos. Just our simple black KYBs. And again, it just corrects the geometry of these, because you could tell the shock would be at a pretty extreme angle if we hooked it back to where it was. Plus it's going to be significantly shorter than it was originally, so you need shorter shocks, which is what we do up front, but the geometry pretty much stays the same up there. I've had really good luck with these, other than they do hang below the scrub angle if you have a stock 15 inch. It might be close. Scrub angle is if you got a flat tire, you know, however low your rim hangs, you don't want to get a flat tire and this thing be digging in the concrete, because you're going to go for a ride. But if your rim hangs down here, you know, anything below that, you should be good. We're never going to get a flat tire anyhow, especially with new tires, right, Duff? That's right, you're inside napping. I think we're ready to go on to the front. I'm gonna struggle back here, but we got her done. Oh yeah, we gotta bleed brakes, but we'll wait till we get the front done, then we'll do that. So ready to do the front, but I want to set the back end at ride height. So put our tires on it, set her on the ground, And that way we know just how far to go down in the front, and we can eyeball it and see how it looks. Also have that really awesome Carolina squat to it. So awesome, aren't they, Duff? Yeah, I know. We don't want anybody to see it. But. And also, I'll show you how the wheels fit and or don't fit. So there's a stock GM 15x7 wheel. That's what we're gonna run on the fronts, or were. And you can see there's almost a full lug nut of thread sticking out, and it sits just about flush on the axle here. Let me put a lug nut up there. So with that taper sitting in there, there'll even be some threads that are gonna stick through the lug nuts. Now I'll show you what we got going on with our wheel Vintiques. It's because those silly dimples that they got right in there. You can see the wheel sits outside of the axle flange, so I don't like that. It should ride on that. And you can see just how much threads are sticking out there. You know, we're gonna get about half the nut in engagement on the threads, so I don't really like that. I think what we need to do is just get some longer studs and then make a spacer back there so that it rides on, you know, it's sitting all flush. Otherwise, I feel like tightening these up, it's gonna wanna, it probably won't, but I worry about pulling the rim in and then the lug nuts getting loose and the wheel falling off and ruining our perfectly good quarter panel here. So I don't know, maybe I'll reach out to Wheel Vintique, see if I can get a response. I'm sure they'll tell me, well, you could send them back if you haven't mounted them or painted them. But what do these things fit? What would I'll have to ask him, well, what do these wheels fit? Because I'll go buy one of those vehicles. Right, Duff? Buy some more junk. Okay, these will work good enough for mock-up right now. These are 275/60/15, which is 27.99 inches tall. The factory 235/75s, which I've got a new set of those. If worst case scenario comes, we'll just have to put those on. Those are 28.9 inches, so a little less than an inch taller. So less than a half inch overall height is all it's gonna make a difference. So 235s or this, whatever we use for mock-up, it's not gonna make much of a difference. We're gonna use these just so we get a feel for how they look. Plus we got them, and I don't know what the heck else they're gonna fit. So you can see just how engaged that is. And as I'm tightening it up, it is pulling that wheel in. You can see how tight it is down there. Maybe you can't, but watch this. I'll show you. Watch that gap there. Pulls it right in because there's nothing behind it. And you don't want that. I don't know what to do here. Okay, let's go do the other side and get her sit down on the ground and go do the front. Duff, let's go check it out. What do you think? Should we leave it like that? Yeah, I agree. Looks pretty silly. Let's see how she looks underneath. Our shocks look pretty dang close to the scrub angle. I think they'll be okay. With that big old fuel cell, she's hanging down like a saggy diaper. What do you think about that, Duff? It'll come up a little bit when we bring the front end down, but yeah, that's down there. Let's be careful of that. If our license plate is dragging, then our fuel tank might be dragging. Price you gotta pay to be this cool. Right, pal? You think it looks cool or what? Yeah. Cool as the other side of the pillow. Let's go to the front. That's gonna be way easier, right? They always are. Well, looks like somebody's done brakes. The rotor's labeled. They're not all grooved up. Looks like a relatively new hose on there. Well, there's a lot of zinc coating on it yet, I guess what I'm getting at. It does have the sway bar, fancy. So I think what we're gonna do up here, we're gonna take the shocks off. We're gonna get our gas axe, we're gonna torch our bump stop off, and then we'll get in that spring pocket and cut 2 coils off, because that's usually where we end up at. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. And there you have it. We unbolted our shock. We took the gas axe, cut that bump stop out of there. Took 2 coils exactly off the coil spring. You want to line it up where the existing notch was, make your new cut. You got to cut it in 2 pieces to get it out of there, I've found. And I did a little grinding on the bump stop just to clean it up a bit. Again, you can do this. You can split the ball joint. You can make a lot nicer cut on that coil with the chop saw or the death wheel. Same deal with the bump stop. You can cut it off with the death wheel or grind them rivets out, whatever you want to do. Make it a lot cleaner, but nobody sees under there. For shocks, we got these Beltec 8005s, the old nitro drop too. They seem to work pretty well for how much we end up lowering these things. You gotta watch out, sometimes these brake hoses get a little taut on you, so you either gotta move them out, drill a different hole, or open up this steel clamp here and slide it through, move it in or out. I think they get a little tight on this end. I don't really remember. But it's a good time to stick those in there. Good time to grease everything too while you're at it, you know, tie rod ends, pitman arms, ball joints, all that good stuff. And everybody's gonna complain and say, oh, you're screwing up the suspension geometry, you gotta use spindles, you gotta use control arms, blah, blah, blah. We've done a half dozen of these pickups like this. We've taken them to alignment shops afterwards. That's one thing you gotta do, is you gotta align it afterwards. Yeah, they align just fine, they drive up and down the road just fine, they work great. And guess what? All you're out here is a pair of shocks here, a little bit of your time, and a gas axe. If you wanna go with that stuff later on and this spring stuff doesn't work for you, then you just go buy spindles and springs and whatever later. It works perfectly fine though. I guarantee it. It's the Mortske guarantee. You don't get that just anywhere. Okay, let's stick a shock in there and go to the other side. Easy peasy. I wish the back was this easy. You know, I said how easy these are. Turns out one stripped bolt can make your life a lot less easy. So hopefully we can run our die over this shock stud and get away with that. Otherwise we'll have to put a new shock stud in. So close we were. All better. Well, we're getting supervised now. Turn the wheel all the way to the right and to the left, and we got the weight of the vehicle on the jack here, and we got our spring center, and the brake hose doesn't seem to be binding or get too taut, so we should be good there. Oh, sure enough, when we're turning the wheel, I can see a little power steering fluid hissing out. That's what that noise was. But you gotta make sure you got your spring centered in the pocket, otherwise it's gonna sit not good and make all kinds of strange noises, and you don't want to be bing-bonging down the road. So I think we're ready to stick some wheels on and get her on the ground, see how she looks. We think it looks way better with hubcaps. We just got to figure out how to get them from looking like that.
I think you just get some toothpaste and a toothbrush.
Toothbrush. To looking like that. Losing my nuts. Oh yeah. Way more gooder. That is some gravel caked on these. See if these hubcaps will clean up. I know I got these ones that are on there. Those ones actually are for the K5 Blazer. It came off of that. They might end up going back on it. So let's see if we can clean these up. I got ourselves a Scotch-Brite Brillo pad thinger here. These seem to work pretty good. Got some warm, soapy water. They've been soaking in for about a half hour. Let's see how they come back. I don't know what's on these. I'm thinking it's just gravel grime and such. But as you know, hubcaps are like frickin' gold these days. So let's see if we can breathe some light back into them. What do you use to clean hubcaps with? You ever use those magic erasers on white walls? Those things are good. Those magic erasers are like amazing. Whoever invented those should get some type of award. So a little history on this thing. I found out my cousin's ex-husband, he bought this thing from the state of North Dakota auction in probably about 1994 or 5 and had it sitting around. My cousin, his wife, said they needed to get rid of it, so one of the local gas guys, he needed a vehicle for hauling softball players around and hunting with, hauling his dogs. He was talking to my uncle at the time and said, yeah, my son-in-law, he's got a Suburban that they're looking to get rid of, so he bought it, and that was in 1996. And Herbie, who's had that thing for since 1996 basically, he got rid of it in 2020 to a classmate of mine who runs a shop in town here, and he's the one who got a hold of me and said, hey, this thing, we just use it for running around the yard. It's too good to cut up, but that's what we're going to do with it unless you want it. So I said, I'll take it. There you go. It's pretty clean, but most of the paint come off. So I suppose we could repaint it. But you know how much we love painting stuff around here. I wonder how this would do in a dishwasher. I don't know. I'd have to get a dishwasher then. What's your tech tip for cleaning hubcaps? Okay. 3 more to do. There you have it. I pretty much took all the paint off of them. And these things are a little more dinged up than I'd like, but they'll be good enough for some other roller that we need to mock up, something we sell, or if we find something that's missing out cap. They look a lot better than they did before. If we really wanted to, we could clean them up a bit more, tape off the different areas and paint them black and gold, or ooh, we could paint the bow tie blue and that trim ring blue, and then do the rest black. That'd be alright. Just creating more work for myself. We don't like washing stuff, we don't like painting stuff. Let's do something different here. Ended up washing up the hubcaps that were on it, so we're letting those dry. And we still gotta figure out what we're gonna do with those back wheels, so I haven't stuck them on yet. Those white mirrors were irritating me, but now with the white wheels, kind of looks okay. You can see just how bad a shape these things are in. So I got some chrome ones. Let's stick those on there, see how they look. You can comment down below which ones you like better. These things are pretty easy to take off. Allegedly, just a little Torx screw there, or Phillips, whatever they are. These are Torx. And then there's 3 bolts. Pop them off, pop your other ones on. Bada bing, bada boom.
Bada bing, bada boom, I'm done.
Duff, what are you doing in there? He's like, I like the back seat better than the front. Don't we all? You can see just how much this thing is faded. It's quite a bit, but I was thinking this paint was really chalky. Well, it's actually pretty smooth under there, so I don't think we'll get that life back in it, but maybe it'll come back a little bit. We'll see. But I wanted to get all that dirt out of there before we stuck this new one on. Like I said, just those 3 screws, 10mm head, and then that Torx screw. Nothing to it. I think these mirrors were like 70 bucks new for the pair on eBay, and they come with this mounting gasket thing too, so still pretty budget friendly. I don't know if I'm gonna like them or not, but we can always go back and put these on something else if we need to. I really hate painted bumpers. I don't hate them. You gotta have the right vehicle. Chin's pickup used to have painted bumpers, and it looks so much better with chrome bumpers and rally wheels than what it had when we started. So what do you guys think? Chrome mirror or white mirror? Chrome mirror or white mirrors? As always, you know, the stainless fit and finish on these aftermarket mirrors, I can already tell it's going to vibrate more than the stock one. I haven't determined if I like them better. I don't like these big mirrors that come on these, but there's already holes in the door, so we're just going to use them. Plus, this thing isn't perfect. I kind of am thinking white mirror personally. But let's put the chrome ones on there since we got them. We'll save the other ones in a box with all our other mirrors over here. We got the big ones off the 92. One of the original ones off the 92. Yeah, I don't know. I don't hate it, but the white ones kind of match the rest of the patina on the thing. Oh well, easy to swap. Let's go to the other one. Oh, mother trucker, Duff. We got 2 left-hand mirrors. Just kidding. Y'all didn't think I was Pot County special there, did ya? Whoop. Look at that. GM had it figured out. They got these ambidextrous bi-side mirrors that go both ways. Cool. Well, let's put the old ones back in the new box and label them. Whatever we use them for someday. Another piece of crap to sell on our auction for $1. And then we'll have to figure out what else we're gonna do. Oh, we should get put some new park lights. Lenses in there. Well, look at what we got here. That silly Oakie's always talking about his eagle eyes.
We're gonna find center with the eagle eye.
You should market that stuff. I feel like there should be somebody there with some New Balances and a mullet and some silly glasses and maybe some overalls on, as opposed to an eagle on there. It's fragile. Must be French. Oh, just kidding. It's from Taiwan.
Fragile. It must be Italian.
Well, let's see if this thing even looks close to the same. Sure. I wish this thing had the 4 headlight front, but whatever. You can wish in one hand and you can...
Well, you can wish in one hand and crap in the other and see which gets filled first.
So you get a couple Torx screws. Those are getting pretty common in the 80s, apparently. That looks like a new headlight in there. Wagner Bright Light. Wonder how good they are compared to the ones in Casper. That one's got one that's pretty foggy. You got some lichens growing on the grill. I'm gonna have to clean that up. This thing needs a good scrubbing, inside and out. Don't forget to take these out. That would be disappointing. I thought they just kind of snapped in at the top. But I suppose this keeps folks from stealing your headlight bezel at the Costco parking lot. At least they're all the same screw head. Don't hit the ground and break. 10 millimetric. Let's check to make sure these things work before we go ahead and replace them and then find out the bulbs are bad. But I think you can get at the bulbs from the back. Oh yeah, GM did her up right. You can fix them from the back side. Good time to check them. Oh yeah. Looks like all the lights are working except for the left rear brake light. Left and right on these? Heck no. Again, GM. Pulling out all the stops. Making everything ambidextrous. It really is a pain putting park light lenses in these lowered vehicles. Punk kids ruining everything. If it was lifted up in the air, it would have been super easy to put in there. You just settle down, Dwayne. With your Suburban, you can do as you wish. Okay, that looks way better. I know it doesn't make much of a difference, but these things were super cheap, like 30 or 40 bucks for the pair. And it really irritated me that everything else on this Suburban is in relatively good shape, especially on the outside. So just put them in, get it done. Plus it protects the lens or the bulb from getting water in there going out, you know, getting a ticket. We don't want any tickets. And our lowrider, because we're already, you know, gonna be getting picked out by the policia. Let's go to the other side and watch how fast I do it. And done. Let's go take that taillight cover off. It uses the same Torx as this. See if we can't figure out why that one ain't working. Hopefully it's just a bulb. Ew. Look at all that crud. That's no bueno. Let's clean that out. Yeah, it's in here too. I can't imagine any of that did any electrical any good back here. Well, I'm guessing that bulb's no good. Let's get the rest of the bulb out of there. I like taking a needle nose and twisting it around that brass part. Just twist it counterclockwise till it comes out of there. See what happens. Clamp on there, give her the old twister-rooski. Ooh. I think at this point, it's all kind of... Oh, there we go. Look at that. Oh boy, that socket is in bad shape. Get some compressed air in there. My park lamp's working. Well, it was. Just don't touch it. Let's see if our taillights work now. Taillight. Oh, blinkers. No blinker. I can't imagine it could be anything to do with this socket being super corroded and nasty. Let's get the power probe out, see if we got power back here. Just long enough. I think we just need to put a new end on here. Where are we going to find one of those? Hopefully you can see in there just how, see how rusty it is on the outside, but those two tabs that touch on those two tangs, the Wu-Tang Clan, they're pretty freaking chewy. So I think we're going to have to find a replacement, unfortunately. Because yeah, that one is about ready to fall out of there. I suppose the gasket looks in okay shape, but I suppose that leaked just enough dust in there, and then that dust got damp and rotted it all out. It's funny the other ones actually work. Maybe this backup light doesn't work. You don't need stinking backup lights. Dig through my stash, see what I can come up with for a taillight harness. So remember that 1980 C20 that we parted out? Well, I got the harnesses out of that, but it turns out the taillight harness, we'd already robbed this connector. Oh, look at that, the tang fell right out of there. Turns out we'd already robbed this connector on both sides for that 86 K20. The good news is we got the front headlight harness and blinker, and this socket is pretty much the same. So we're gonna steal that frickin' thing and splice the wires, and should be good to go. Pays to save all that junk. Let's go turn the hazards off so we don't, you know, blow a fuse and then have to try to troubleshoot that later. You know, it'd be great if you could pull your weight around here just a little bit. Wanna go for a ride? Oh my gosh, you didn't even move. You are out of it. This thing is actually close to going for a ride, so I don't know what your problem is. Hey, thanks for turning the hazards off. You're a real go-getter. So if we hook the black to the ground, black to the black, and then brown should be taillights and parks. Got the park lights on right meow. And nothing. What the hey? We got a bad bulb in here too. I can't. This nothing works. We're gonna need a clear socket anyway. Black. Frick! All it was is a bad bulb. Okay, now I'm gonna go turn the flashers on. Now we should hook the black to the black and the blue to the yellow. Nothing. Now what? Is that bulb bad? Oh, we had juice back there. Come on, power probe. And no power. Get some kind of backfeed going through. Park signal. Well, let's see if the brakes work. Brakes are on, now what? Still no power. Well, there shouldn't be a separate fuse for the left and the right. And the right is on. Well, I guess we get to crawl under this lowrider and find out where that issue is. Awesome. Either way, this socket needed to be replaced. And maybe that caused something else to go bad? I can't imagine that. Just to make sure our bulb isn't bad. Nope, bulb works. Somewhere our yellow wire has an issue. Doesn't look like this thing ever had a trailer hitch. Usually when people put in trailer hitches, they'll tee into the existing taillight harness. Sometimes there's a nice plug that people put in there. Other times people put in the good old electrical guillotine scotch clips. And that causes bad things to happen. So I'm going to shimmy underneath this thing and see if we can find the next closest connector. I think this is a separate harness back here for the taillights, and then there's a harness that runs up to the front of the cab, I believe. So maybe there's a spot we can tee in and check to see if we got power at that connector. So here's our connector for the taillight harness. This harness comes from the firewall. And you can see we got power right there for the brakes. So then there's this little harness that goes from that up to the taillight. And as you can see, it kind of runs in the slop and gets everything thrown up at it by the rear wheel. So let's see if we can find an issue in there. I'm guessing so. Maybe we can just peel this whole harness out here. That would be great. Oh, there it is, right there. Butt connector. Broke right after it. Maybe we'll take this whole harness out if we can and put some real connectors in there. Heat shrink solder stuff and tape this up good. Seem like a good idea? I concur. Okay, new socket, some connectors, heat shrink and solder. Up here, down there in those broken wires, taped them up. Let's see if she works. Oh yeah. Park lights, good to go. Now the one light that everybody always forgets is the lowly license plate light. And by golly, she works. Cool beans! Cool beans. All right, I think it's gonna wrap it up for tonight here. Yeah, you can just take a break there, pal. I probably should shut these doors before the battery goes dead. I'll talk to Tiffany, see what else we need to look at over here. Still got to bleed those rear brakes. We got a lot of stuff to do, let's be honest. But the list is maybe getting shorter. We got lights. We got her on the ground. We got wheels, tires, park lights. Yeah, now we should probably start doing some cleaning in there, Duff. It's disgusting. Just the way you like it. Okay. See you in a minute. Oh, also, Chin noticed this thing needs door hinge pins real bad. And also it needs our PVC trick on the door latches. So before we left last night, that park light decided not to work. We can get it to work by providing the ground though, so there's an issue with the ground, and I will show you. Take the bulb out of the socket here. Should be lit up. And we can get at the ground side right here, and we're getting a power through it. So that's the beauty of these power probes. You can apply power or ground. So we'll apply a ground to that ground, or what should be the ground, and it lights up. And also the one on the outside works as well. We're both using the same ground circuit. Here, we'll apply that same ground to that same park light bulb. There you go. So we got to figure out where the issue is in the ground. It looks like there's a ground strap right here. But I checked that, and we got a good ground there, so I'll have to tear apart that circuit, see what happens. I don't know why it worked before and doesn't now, but that's the way life goes. I found the culprit. I got a ground there. We didn't have one there. So that plug must be all screwed up. So we'll give her the old bend the tanger over. Oh, and it snapped right off. That's no bueno. Son of a biscuit. Well, go back through the stash. Steal pigtail off of that harness. If we slide this in there, which way does that gotta go? I'm guessing this way. And then you hook this jumper to the ground. Now do we have lights, camera, action? There. It's just this connector that was apparently on its way out. So, just have to splice that guy in, taper back up, should be good to go. See if they work, Duff. You're ready to go for an RIDE. Look at that. Sweet. Sweet! So there you have it, some basic tools. I know that power probe I got is probably some high-end electrical testing equipment, but you could do the same thing with a test light and a jumper wire fixing that ground. So a basic understanding of the theory of operation for electrical, maybe a schematic, stuff like that. You could fix this stuff pretty easy, and then helps having an extra wire harness laying around to steal connectors off of and stuff. But yeah, just don't be afraid of electrical. Everybody's always afraid of it and hates doing it. I mean, nobody really likes doing it, but it's kind of rewarding when you can get some old heap like this, get all the lights working. Probably got, you know, hour and a half into messing around with this electrical. And I'm sure there's going to be more gremlins we're going to have to address, but she's lit up. I think we're going to scrape the crud off the inside of the windows and the outside of the windows. And yeah, that'll make her look a lot better. Thinking tinting the windows, North Dakota legal is 50% on the fronts, and then I believe it's 20 on the backs. So I'm debating whether to go 50 all the way around, or do you do 50s in the front and 20s in the back. I'm not sure. I'm not really a limo window tint type guy. I don't mind the look of this thing with no tint. My wagon's got no tint and I'm cool with it, but I just feel like tinting them would kind of set it off. That's the thing with tint, you can always take it off too. Spend a few $100, get them tinted. Makes a big difference, especially in the summer when it's hot. We don't have AC in this thing, I don't believe. I never tested it. I'm guessing it doesn't work, but that's something I think we're going to address this. And then that 92, maybe we'll do a AC debacle diagnosis video. It's all pretty much the same stuff on the engine side between these two. I mean, AC is AC. You got a compressor, you got a condenser, you got your control sending a signal, you got your low pressure switch. Again, pretty simple system. A lot of people get really scared of them. All you gotta do is basically find out if you're getting a signal to your clutch, and if your system's charged, and if your compressor's working. And usually, if there's a leak, where that's at. 9 times out of 10, it's the condenser leaking, or the compressor leaking. Sometimes it's compressor, sometimes it's hose, but yeah. So comment down below if you want to see some AC stuff. Okay, I'm gonna enjoy the satisfaction of cleaning up that rear window. Look at that, we could see you hiding in there, Duff. Oh, we could see our reflection even. Tell you what, spray away, that is the stuff to go. That's stuff with Donna on there. She's a pretty lady. Ammonia free. Spray and wipe clean. Leaves no film. Not a paid sponsor. It's made with steel. Recycle it when it's empty. Good stuff. It's even got a guarantee. Or it's, if you say it like old pudding, guarantee. I don't know, he says it funny. I think so. Yeah, this thing looks way more gooder. I think we're gonna pop some hubcaps on it. Take it for a rip. What do you think about that duffel up, I guess? You gonna ride in the back? Guess so. Well, I cranked on those lug nuts. Not too wild with the BDBH, but we got thread sticking through. I'm working with my machinist, and Napa Todd, he found me some longer wheel studs. They're a little bit bigger knurl, so I'll have to ream them out a bit. Shouldn't be a big deal, but it's safe enough to drive down the road right now. We'll keep an eye on it. Like I said, we're gonna get some different wheel studs and then put some spacers in there, because I don't like how it's clamping on that rim like that. It's probably fine, but it ain't freaking right. Listen to this thing though. It doesn't even sound that obnoxious. I thought there was just like missing the tailpipe or an exhaust leak. It's not that bad for coming right out the cat. If I could figure out how to turn this key. Come on now. Oh, the beauty of EFI. Got a nice little rumble to it. All right, let's get some hubcaps on her and take her for a rip. What do you think about that, pal? You don't want to ride up here? Come on. All right, let's go for a ride. Yeah, I know. Service engine soon. Have we done a video with a vehicle that has one of them? Brakes seem pretty good considering I didn't lead the rear brakes. Mirrors are way off. You want to adjust that side for me, pal? Oh, door latches need work. It's pretty good. Yeah, I know you're gonna want the window down anyway. A little bit more. Oh, sorry. I know, so much excitement. Okay, now down some. Down some. Can you push it out? Fine. Fine. Good enough. All right. Fuel injection. So nice. Feels like we got brakes. Oh, and the brake light came on. Yeah, we knew. Oh, trannies. Tranny's slow. The brakes dragging? Did we adjust them up that high? want to check the transmission fluid because I knew it was slow when I mentioned it earlier.
One eternity later.
Square body life. Let's see if it shifts faster now. Oh yeah. What is dragging? You just adjust those rear brakes up too high? I don't know. I didn't do anything with the fronts. The wheels aren't dragging. Ooh. Don't back out the driveway, straight on. Something dragging in that rear end? Got an exhaust leak under the hood. Believe it or not, with no tailpipe, I can still hear that. You got something dragging. Big time. What is it, Duff? Drive shaft rubbing? No. We didn't mess with the fronts. And that rear end apart. It's got oil in it, doesn't it? We didn't go very far. Should have turned fine. Didn't see anything too conspicuous. Duff got to stretch his legs a bit. Did you find something to roll in? Oh, you're so gross. This is our new vehicle. Sounds like it's in the rear. Something's dragging. And it's rotational. What does that mean, Duff? We adjust those brakes out too far and they just gotta rub a little bit? Those tires are rubbing. We put two 75/60s on. Now it would rub worse when we hit a bump if it was something on the frame. We crawled underneath and we were trying to figure out the center hub debacle so they're not hitting on a leaf spring or nothing. She's got some pep. We're just gonna go with that it's the brakes because we adjusted them out too far. That's what I'm sticking with. Final answer. Speedo works. Oil pressure gauge works. Voltmeter works. Temp gauge works. Oh my gosh. Every gauge works. Fuel gauge works because I know because it was empty and it cost me $100 to fill it up. Seems like whatever's dragging is on this side. Transfusion shift's good. And really the exhaust part, like I said, it needed exhaust, but we would have had to redo the exhaust most likely lowering it this far anyway. We had to move everything else, so. Who knows? I could smell something. So we should probably head back to the shop. Smell around. Duff, you want to put your nose on it? Can you smell anything after whatever it is that you rolled in? Silly dog. Whatever's making the noise should be good and warm by now. Bad part is now we get to chip up the paint on our nice new wheels trying to get the hubcaps off. We gotta pull the wheel off. Oh well. So we don't have nice things. Maybe I'm just smelling oil burning off the engine. I know the transmission was covered in it. Hey, I was hoping we get to test that new drive shaft out, get her up to speed. Show you guys that there's no vibration. Don't need a rear view mirror, need a windshield. Dome light works, you need a cover. I think those holes in the roof are why the headliner's sagging, so it'd be nice to find a new headliner insert and recover that. When I was cleaning the windows, I noticed pretty much all the window seals and door seals are smoked from being in the sun, so I should probably put some of them in there. Oh, I wanted to test the cruise control too. Dang it. I have to test the AC out even though I'm sure it doesn't work. And the inside needs a good cleaning. We need some different seats or some seat covers. The windows tinted. What else? That exhaust leak. Didn't look like there was any puddles in the shop floor. Need to bleed those rear brakes. So nothing's really leaking terribly. Surprising for something with 154,000. I was looking at that title from 1996, and it says this thing's had 113,000 on it in 1996. So 41,000 miles in 26 years. So yeah, he didn't really drive it that much. This thing is a local legend in Rutland, North Dakota, the home of the world's largest hamburger. Check it out. I don't know what year they made that hamburger in, like 1983 or 84. They didn't hold the record very long, but this thing was the softball hauler for the Rutland Rockets or the Rutland Roosters or whatever they went by back then. All right, let's get this thing inside. Let's see if we can figure out what the heck is going on. There's got to be something in the rear end dragging. We need to check out our bump stops or our C-notch and stuff. Oh, we got to get an alignment too. All kinds of things to do. Let's go see what that is. Duff sniffed it out. There's a fair amount of smoke coming from in there somewhere. This wheel. Let's get her up in the air and see what that is. Is that... it is right off the bat. Axle bearing? Maybe? Guess we never looked at it. I think it's smoking real bad though. Should be able to tell what's hot. So here's my theory. You can see all these metal shavings inside the brake drum. When I tightened that wheel, it pushed down on the outside of the drums and pushed the drum back, and the drum is binding on the backing plate here. So let's pop that wheel off, turn it, see if it still grinds. Well, while we're at it, we'll just pop the brake drum off and we'll be able to see where the brake drum was grinding. But I'm guessing that's what it had to be. You can see all the metal shavings all there on the drum. And that drum is hot, hot, hot. The good news is the axle seal doesn't feel warm. And usually that's gonna take a lot of miles to get that warm. And it didn't look bad. I didn't look at it real close when we did that axle seal. You know, dumb of me. But it looked fine then. Now would probably be a good time to just bleed the brakes too. Well, let's do the old rag trip that Puddin does. And see if we can't get the hubcap off without scuffing up our wheel. We ruined it, Duff. We took a perfectly good Suburban and ruined it. Look at all that dust that fell out of there. And you can see the brake drum, like, it's deflecting right there, so it's kicking paint off. You know what I'm saying? When you get rust and it cracks out, probably gonna be looking for some new brake drums. Let's pop them off there. They're gonna be real freaking hot. See what it looks like. So here's what happened. When I tightened that wheel, it pushed down on the outer edge of the brake drum and caused that area right there to rub right there. And it also pushed the drum in so far that it was rubbing not only right on that surface, but on that inside surface too. So it was rubbing here, inside here, and right there. And you could see all the shrapnel that was ground off there. So I don't know if we hose this thing up enough. I think we can set the drum up the other way and we'll beat that face down. We'll put the other wheels back on it and see what happens. But yeah, this wheel started, it seemed like it fit better on the way off. So it was pulling the axle out and pushing the hub in. And I'm guessing on the other side there was just a lot looser tolerances. It wasn't as tight as this side was. So let's whammy away on that drum a bit. We know we need one of those now. I noticed they were like $70 a piece. Great, but they were pretty chewy anyway. And there's some pretty good ridges in there. I don't think we screwed up our pads at all. We'll blow that off, and then we'll go grab the old 235s, put them on there Before we do that, we're gonna bleed these brakes. All because these aftermarket wheels just don't fit for some reason. And I don't get it, because it's 5-on-5. The only thing people are buying these things for is C10s, maybe 71 to 76 GM big cars, or maybe some 50s and 60s GM BOP cars, Cadillacs, Buicks, Olds, Pontiacs. Some of those are 5-on-5. So I mean, these things should fit this thing. They should fit all those GMs. Whatever. I knew they didn't fit. Got me in trouble. We'll have to put different studs in and spacers. I hate spacers, but I like these wheels. Could always go with a 7 on the back. The factories are 6.5s. Put these tires on a 7-inch rim, probably. Or just go with 235s all the way around. Who knows? Enough rambling. Let's do some whammying. Alright. No more drag. Still pretty warm. I'm gonna pump some fluid in that bleeder. Man, these rims look terrible, Duff. Oh well. Sacrifices will have to be made for the test drive of the YouTube, folks. Does it look that bad that you don't even want to get close to it? Tech tip of the day, in a fit of rage when you're trying to get brakes bled and go hit the pedal to see if the light goes off, make sure you got the cap on the master cylinder. She kind of splooted everywheres. Is brake fluid flammable? I feel like it's not. I mean, but maybe. So I'm gonna top that off and maybe rinse it a bit. I screwed up, okay? We can't all be perfect like you. Bet you all didn't think this was gonna turn into a Puddin's Fab Shop pressure wash video. Pert near. I'm just gonna give her a quick douching.
Quick shout out to our sponsor this evening, Summer's Eve Feminine Hygiene Products. When something's gone wrong and it's the smell of your thong. Summer's Eve. Douche.
Knock the heavy particles down. Cause that brake fluid's some nasty stuff. Well, Duff, should we give her a whirl? Check her out. All right, we're gonna do better this time. Get the door in one shot. Got it. Don't be a bad starter now. Brake light's still on. I'm over it. Oh, it rolls on its own now though. So add brake drums to the list of things to buy, along with door pins, wheel seals, wheel spacers. I don't even know anymore. You did good on that mirror over there. Not bad. Except for your face is in front of it, so I really can't use it. Kind of sounds like she's got a hesitation. Those plug wires wet. Definitely less noise coming from the back end and wheel drag and such. What do you think about that, Duff? Uh-oh, Duff. Look at the kitty. Oh, he sees the kitty. He's on it. 2 bags. We're busy making a YouTube video. You're on the job. Keep your head in the game. I think we're gonna have to shim the rear end. The pinion angle is kind of pointed up, and it should not be pointed up that much. It's not really vibrating. It's going down the road pretty straight too. Definitely not hitting on all 8 anymore either. It's cold out. I'm rolling my window up. You can keep yours down though if you like. 30 pounds oil pressure. Looks like she's running about 150. Charging 13 volts. Pretty good, Duff. No vibrations. 60 mile an hour. Oh, we gotta check the cruise. Come on, baby. Oh, no cruise. stuff underneath. This thing's still got the smog pump hooked up. We might even leave it that way because it works. We might take it out though because the old TBI needs all the HPs she can get. Well, shoot. No cruise. Oh, these seals are so bad. It's like, the wind noise is terrible. Usually it's the wing windows on these square bodies. You got the matchbook trick, you know. You stick the matchbooks behind the latch. Can you even get matchbooks anymore? You know, they used to give them with your pack of Vantage menthols, but people still smoke, I guess. I heard menthols are going away though. That's a shame. But yeah, usually it's the wing windows that whistle. It's back here. No rumble strip. 70 mile an hour. Take your hands off the wheel. Ain't bottoming out. Doesn't ride any rougher than it did before. So I definitely did not ruin this Suburban. Duff agrees. What do you think, pal? Yeah. Overdrive. They say 373 gears in the rear. We didn't even really, what did we put some park light lenses? They were like 40 bucks. Mirrors, they were 70 bucks, which posted it on the Instagram. And it seems like it's probably like 55% say white, 45 chrome. I'm thinking the white ones are going to go back on. But I don't know whether to paint them white or just leave them. You know, have them pop like the wheels. Just kind of leave them rough around the edges like they are. I don't know. I'm sure you people are going to tell me what I need to do with the wheels. Or not the wheels, but the mirrors. Could steal the rallies off Casper and put on here and find some different rallies. But I think just being a Scottsdale, kind of the stripper package, I think we just stick with the poverty caps, white wheels, white mirrors, you know, stick to your roots. Definitely got to do some freshening up on the interior. Cover these seats, redo the headliners, because we're so good at that. That's going to be a big son of a visit. Looks like it's two pieces, there's a divider in there. Hopefully the rubber floor mat's in decent enough shape. I think we can just clean that up. I'm kind of a rubber floor mat guy. Nothing wrong with carpet, but rubber floor mat's just so much easier to take care of. You just hose whatever you got out of there. No vacuuming. You know me, I like vacuuming about as much as I like pressure washing and paint. Okay, this thing just, well, she's up to 210. I don't know, is that where these TBIs run? It does say it gets hot to like 245, 250. Floats down the road, good. Should have some bump stops in the rear just in case we get wild. We got some work to do, but I think she's, I don't see why we couldn't. There's a good whoop right there. Nothing. No banging, no clanging. Neither of our heads hit the roof. Right, Duff? Right. I think it's a pretty good driver the way it is. We gotta fix that exhaust. We don't want to get monoxided out of here. Is that a word? Monoxided? Monoximisms? Monoximus. Phenomena. Get ourselves a stereo. But this thing's gonna be good. I don't know if I told you, the guy who had it for like 24 years, his name was Herbie. His name still is Herbie, so maybe we'll call it Herbie. I think that's a good name for it. What do you think, Duff? So just slow down so I can hang my head out the window. Good thing Chin's got another Suburban like this for a donor. He doesn't think it's a donor, but might be stealing parts off and get that cruise control. I can't believe how straight this thing goes. High five. Yeah, we did all right. We did all right. Herbie's a good bourbon. You're a good pup, Duff. You're good puppers. Now we're coming up on about 8 miles. Tim's still sitting at 210. That must be where she runs. Charging good. pressure's good. Got to address that brake light issue, but I don't know. I think it just needs to be bled. We didn't do a very good job of it. I don't know, this thing's really growing on me, but if you want to own it, we'll put a price down in the description. Could be yours. What the heck, we got enough junk around. Everybody says what they want about LS's. TBI swap the world. I don't know that I would swap one. Yeah, I would. I'd put it, if I found a good TBI two-wheel drive setup, I would definitely swap one into the Casper. The 4.3 is pretty sick in that thing. She's not happy. I tell you what, there's some strange people out there. They think it looks good though, so. Alright, we're gonna test her out on the gravel. Here's the railroad tracks. We'll see if we can get her to bottom out. Ooh, this is a good one too. No problemo! I'm guessing in the last 41,000 miles it's probably never had a set of plugs and wires, cap, rotor. Maybe had some oil changes and an air filter on that. Diggers in the back really throw the rocks though. Said it leaks dust real bad on the gravel. Judging by how dirty the windows were in the back is, I would concur. Let's go find some more pavement. Yeah, she's needs a tune-up. Oh, show.
I'm getting that for show.
You're just living your best life, aren't you, Duff? Weather's warming up. Head hanging out the window. Good whoop. No whammying on the bump stops that we don't have. I mean, it'd be. I think it's gonna hit the floor before it hits the bumps to the notch in the frame. I think the pumpkin is gonna whack the floor back there. Pretty sure. Maybe. At some point, we'll put enough weight back there and find out. We gotta get the wheel situation figured out. Just here, like I can't even see it right now. I can just think about it. Just how terrible those wheels in the back look. How good they used to look. We'll get her though, Duff. We'll get her. I know. It's kind of doing the surgy thing. What's that all about? Need a fuel filter for running on 4-year-old gas? Can't imagine there's any issue with that. I still cannot believe how good this thing just cruises down the road, how nice it rides, and how straight it goes. Disappears from her. It's gonna be real good after a while. Well, it's about that time, Duff. Shut her down. Oh, it looks so good. Not so good. Those big tires, you gotta have them to fill it out. All right, you go look for rabbits and 55 gassers hiding around the corner. Well, there you have it. We took this 1988 Chevrolet Suburban Scottsdale that had been neglected for the last handful of years. It was already pretty much on the road, but we made it look a heck of a lot cooler. I think there's more to come. Unless somebody jumps out and thinks they can't live without it, needs to buy it. We notched it in the back, did a flip kit, cut coils in the front, wheels, tires. We got lights working, new park lights, cleaned some windows. Did a couple of things there. New brake hose, shortened the drive shaft, made a C-knot. Oh boy, there goes the rabbit. Where's Duff? He already gave up, he went the wrong way. Goofball. Somebody needs to buy a cab over. But if you watch it to this point, I appreciate it very much. Check out our other videos if you haven't. Comment down below what you think we should do with this thing next. Should we stick with the white wheels? Should we put some slots on it? Torque thrusts? Maybe Some 200S's. Detroit Steels. Hey, if somebody's got a contact at Detroit Steel Wheel, I think this thing would be sweet with some Detroit Steel wheels on it. Probably go back to the white mirrors. If you haven't, think about purchasing some merch. Joining the Duff Proof Club. We got some behind the scene footage that we show there. We're gonna hopefully add some more stuff to that. Still haven't come up with a second channel name that can't live without. So if somebody's got something, comment that down below. But there's just nothing we can get after. We're working on some videos for it. Remember, doesn't matter how you get it done, as long as you're having fun. It's gonna be fun. What are we gonna work on next?